All right. Another little episode, mini episode of Monetize Your Haters. I love certainly doing this. Today, there seems to be some, and I don't know why this is always the case, generally out of shape, fat weirdos who are, look, as the Rippaverse ramps up yet again for another campaign going into next month. We got an announcement coming Monday. You're going to see a lot more of these guys start to pop up where they're like nipping at the ankles. And as a guy as opinionated as me, I feel like you don't have to go out of your way to make stuff up to try to find something to criticize. I believe that's fairly easy to do, considering that I'm pretty open about my personal views, so you shouldn't have to make stuff up. But you had this crack smoker right here who says this: Eric used to like the character, even saying he's more than just a black Peter Parker, but he changed his tune when he found out he could make money by pandering to racist comic book fans who hate Miles Morales. So the argument this person is making, again, said that, number one, I used to like the character. Number two, saying I said that he's more than just a black Peter Parker. Then you had this guy who is very fat and out of shape and for whatever reason continues to keep my name in his mouth because he's trying to elevate his own personal projects and thinks that I am going to assist him. Sorry, you're on your own, buddy. Can't do anything for you. So this is the video that these guys, or this weirdo, this fat guy, and I'm guessing the other person, which I don't know if that's his sock account or what, I have no idea, but, you know, is trying to present as if I said I like Miles Morales. Now, you guys understand, people have watched this is a 4-year-old video, but you guys that watch my material, you know my position has been very, very consistent on this issue. I've explained in detail what I mean by tokenism. Don't care how you define it. Don't give a crap. But I've defined it in the way that I am using it, which is really all that matters. And I've defined it precisely. It's not a catch-all term. I specifically reference in tokenization as race, gender, sexuality, swaps, etc. of pre-established characters. I've also stated many times that not all tokenization is created equal. There are different ways to do it, and there are more or less preferable ways to do it because they're not all equal. I've said that, for example, one of the best, to me, the best handled ever in like mainstream comics, tokenized character to me has been She-Hulk. I mean, had been, let's say that. And I've expressed why exactly that's the case. They're not all equal, okay? Now, this video, as you see in the title, changing race, gender, or sexuality of established comic book characters, and I talk about this. Now, let's listen to what I said at the beginning of the video.
Let's talk about something that isn't really new, but I think it requires a video because I want folks to understand where I'm coming from with this. Changing the race, ethnicity, and so forth of a pre-established character is some of the wackest shit ever, but let me explain.
Okay, so I've made my position very clear. It's some of the wackest stuff ever. I'm actually going to double down on that after I make this point about Miles Morales. So the act in itself, I consider less preferable. I do not like it. I am not fond of it, but I can look at things objectively, and I can look at things and see, considering the pool, what's more or less preferable than, let's say, for comparison's sake, something else. Okay. So you have characters that are derivatives. You have characters that are knockoffs, all of that. And I can look at them in terms of what's better and what's worse and what's far more or less preferable, even though when it comes to tokenism, the actual like act per se, I consider whack. Now we're going to move to where this idiot got this video from and what they quoted. Now you can watch that whole entire video if you want, and actually we can, go to some of the what the actual context is.
So that I know that there's a lot more to me as an individual than simply being a black person.
Let me see where I talk about
and change their background because they know you are so easily swayed. And
I talk about more of the psychology behind this. I reference in this actual video, by the way, like Jimmy Olsen, which was a big part of seeing that stuff happen more often, which is the context of what this video is that, this is where we really started to see this characters appearing in like live action settings and they were not themselves. They don't look anything like Jimmy Olsen and stuff. So at this mark, I think it's here. Is it
has
here?
To deal with some conflict regarding her sexual. This is in times. Some of these characters
so listen to this. Now, this is the part that didn't get clipped in that clip. Listen to this.
role that is centered around a suit. As an example, you have different characters that have been Batman, and different characters have worn the suits of Batman. But we all know the Batman is white as hell, and that's Bruce Wayne. That's the iconic Batman. So if you up and depicted a black Batman, you're going to get some backlash. And yeah, some characters have been written decently that are of different races and have suited up in the suit of a hero.
All right, so again, that is the context. I mentioned another character, not Spider-Man, and like Batman and other people having, let's say, filled his suit. Still less preferable, right? And whatnot. And what I'm going to mention here is Miles Morales, and I'm talking about, well, at minimum, it's at least decent that they didn't just take Peter Parker, the character, and let's say put him in a new universe and then just race swap him, saying that he's now Peter Parker and he's, let's say, biracial like Miles Morales did. Instead, they created another Spider-Man. It's a knockoff. It's still tokenism. And they named him Miles Morales, right? He's still Peter Darker. At no point do I say, and we're going to listen, no point do I say that I actually like the character. I'm speaking more to the fact that, well, that's far more preferable than them just taking Peter Parker and then swapping him, despite, you can make the argument that's what he is, as like they have a very similar like origin and all of that, but he's, at least his name's Miles Morales and not Peter Parker. So listen in on this.
Or a version of that hero. One of the more obvious is Miles Morales as Spider-Man. Now, most of these types of efforts are forced, corny, and lazy, but at least Miles Morales has his own background. This is far better than just simply making Peter Parker a black guy.
Which is, again, it's the same point that I've made a million times, which is what was weird about that fat dude grabbing this like he discovered something. Like, dude, I've made this point a million times and I still make it to this day. That's more preferable, but which also doesn't make the clip that this guy clipped. You're going to hear me say, regardless, it's still not a preferable thing. Listen.
Miles is an exception, make no mistake, and it will always be preferable to have another character with his own unique skill set, unique art. Stop being lazy and taking developed characters and making them of different descent for the sake of representation and diversity. I don't care in what timeline you make it, it'll forever be whack. And it's stupid because there's so many examples.
Like, I couldn't be any clearer than that point. And like, it's still always whack. But at least with Miles, he's not, even though I call him Peter Parker, I'm speaking more to where they copied and pasted. Yeah, but it would have been worse if they just said, hey, here's this new universe. Peter Parker's now black and Puerto Rican. That would have been a different animal, and it would have been worse. So though it's not preferable, here's what you get. It's not a new point that I've made. But you have these idiots who, I mean, I guess they're going, I mean, so they must have, I know for a fact they do have a Discord. We've some of them have outed themselves in having that, where they try to sit up here and fish for these gotchas and whatnot. And yeah, of course, it's extremely disingenuous to try to like either remove context, because like I said, you just heard what it is that I say. At no point did I say I like the character, right? And at no point did I say he was more than just being a black Peter Parker. What I said that creation is better than them just making Peter Parker, like the Peter Parker, now a different, like to say Peter shows up in a live action film or something, and now Peter Parker is he's named, they're calling him Peter Parker like they did with Jimmy Olsen, and he's black Puerto Rican. That would have been far less preferable. But you got to expect these guys work overtime, and this is just yet another lesson for you guys that have aspirations to get out there and be great. You're going to get a bunch of freaking weirdos who sit there and they're just going to comb through everything it is that you've ever done to try to fish for gotchas, to try to bring you down in some way, shape, or form. And it's often failed attempts by fat, out of shape goofballs who they themselves, and this is what often happens. And it's sad that it has to be like that, because me, myself, I'm not in anybody's way. There's a million people that can, the pie isn't fixed, but you have people that wish they had the level of success that I have had in my different ventures. And they look at that as a threat for whatever reason. And therefore it's not that they, like, let's say this, that's what they're starting with. It's like he sees success that they don't like. They think I'm undeserving of it. And therefore that they're angry and they're finding things to make themselves angry, or finding things to try to be critical of. But it's really stemming from some sort of like hatred and jealousy. And that shit is corny, dude. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Pie ain't fixed. Go out there and be great. I'm not in any of y'all's way. But this is the latest, I guess, thing they're trying to cling to, because I dared to speak the same thing I've been speaking for the last 4 years, in that, yeah, it's far more preferable to make another character instead of just taking the character and race swapping them, even though doing that is still corny, as I mentioned in this. It's still whack. I said that 10 seconds after I made that point. People are freaking weird.